It's official, the Barbenheimer weekend was the biggest box office weekend of 2023. And that comes as no surprise because other than Mission Impossible, Barbie and Oppenheimer were this summer's most anticipated releases, and we've seen now with the box office results that Greta Gerwig's actually made history with Barbie having the biggest opening weekend for a film directed by a woman. $377 million is quite some feat, and with the way the cinemas are looking right now with them being invaded by pink, I think this is bound to go across the $1 billion mark. Of course, box office success does not necessarily correlate with the film's quality, and we saw that earlier this year with the Super Mario Bros. Movie being quite a generic kids film, but with that Mario skin. So how did Barbie turn out? Well, I think there are plenty of things you can heap praise on it for, but at the same time, it does become a frustrating watch, and it does derail in the second half a lot of the good work it did in the first half. Barbie is clearly a feminist movie, and I think for some audiences that will come as a surprise because the marketing was very good, and it didn't actually reveal that within the trailers and the teasers and that, because like the trailer, for example, only showed footage from the first hour of the film. It isn't until the second half that the film really shows its full hand, and I think this is where the issue lies, because in the first half it goes by at a reasonable pace. We can clearly see the flipping of gender roles happening here, and then we sort of just go a bit too heavy-handed with the messaging. There's a monologue which, we had someone in the crowd saying, "Say it again, sister," and I think with that monologue it just took me out of the film completely, and it wasn't necessary. We didn't need something like that in this film because the film is based around all the messaging anyway, so you don't need to have a specific moment for it like that. And so when we got to those later music numbers and action scenes, which are pretty good as their own thing, there was a feeling of exhaustion because what we saw earlier, and that the plot took that passenger seat. Now, as this is the internet, it's very easy to see somebody criticising Barbie, a feminist film, and think they must just hate women. That is certainly not the case, and with this, I'm very happy to see Greta Gerwig take a shot like this with this Barbie film, but I was just hoping for more finesse on that shot. Because I have enjoyed Greta Gerwig's other work, like Lady Bird and Little Women, and also when she starred in 20th Century Women from 2016, which was a really sweet little film. And it's not like I'm against the messages of the film, like I think they did well to show the empowerment of women, and also looking into the discussion of death, I thought that was very interesting as well. It's just that it became a bit excessive, and I think even looking at the word patriarchy being a buzzword in this film kind of sums that up. Looking at some of the characters now, Margot Robbie as stereotypical Barbie was fantastic. I think that was one of the safest bets you can have for this film. Someone who's been receiving a lot of praise is Ryan Gosling as Ken, and he fully deserves it because he is a standout. He's one of the funniest characters in the film with some of the best jokes, and he really does get to show his comedic chops here, does Ryan Gosling, and he's done that before, like for example in The Nice Guys, which is one of the best films of that year. You should definitely check out The Nice Guys if you haven't already. All the other Barbies and Kens played along well, but special mentions got to go to Kate McKinnon because she was definitely the best alternate version of either of these characters. And I think there is one more character I might be forgetting.
Alan!
That's it, Alan, of course, who is played by Michael Cera. I actually was hoping to see more from him in the film, but what we do get is pretty good. Barbie Land was superbly brought to life, and that was actually shot here in the UK, so well done to those involved. And also I think, in terms of set design and also costumes, Barbie is definitely going to do very well in those categories when the award season comes up. And I think this film overall, there's just so many, there's such a jumble of colours on screen, it is quite a dazzling watch. And the music lifts the atmosphere of the film even further. I think Ryan Gosling's I'm Just Ken is the best song out of the lot, but there's also some other good ones in there, some not my cup of tea, but you'd expect that from a list of pop songs. Will Ferrell was in this film as well as the Mattel CEO, of course Mattel being the real life manufacturers of Barbie. Him and his boardroom staff are here and there throughout the film, and they could have easily been cut out a bit more, but I think they're in there just to sort of show that reflection of how useless they are. There is also a mother and daughter dynamic in the film, and I think this also goes back to my issues with the second half of the film where they kind of use shortcuts to get these resolutions sorted out ASAP. Barbie was filmed during COVID, so that could be a reason why some parts of the film do feel a little bit botched together.
Then raspberries, more lady fingers, then beef sauteed with peas and onions, then a little bit more custard.
There is also a narrator in this film, and that is Helen Mirren, and she has a great opening scene which is a homage to 2001: A Space Odyssey, and she also has one of the funniest jokes in the movie as well, albeit though one where it does sort of conflict with the emotion of that scene. In the lead up towards this film, it was quite hard to identify who this film was targeted towards. Of course, for women, because Barbie is basically women and Ken is basically men. And I think plenty of men will enjoy this film too. But in terms of kids, I think for those who are younger than 10, I don't think there's enough here which they'll enjoy. I think there's too many references to other things. There's a few sexual references, but not too much, to be honest. But there's so many of the messages that I think will be lost on them. And I think the pretty colours will only go so far. So I think maybe 10 and above, I think will be fine with it, but I think for younger kids, maybe one to miss. Barbie is by no means a bad film, but it did let itself down because it does exceed in quite a few areas. But I feel like Greta Gerwig and the creatives just got a little bit too greedy of trying to get in too many different messages here and there, and they got a little bit muddled up with how they wanted to conclude things. And by the end of it, we had some good conclusions with the characters, but there's also ones where it just felt like, how do we actually get to this point? We kind of missed a big chunk in the middle there. These are just my thoughts, so let me know what you thought on Barbie in the comments below. And if you want to see the other part of the Barbenheimer reviews, on screen right now is our review for Oppenheimer.